But I just like keep it to one spot, very hidden, so that no one could tell. And I would do it like in, the shower where it was easy. And I kept it a secret for a really long time.
Hi, this is Solson, the host of the Teenage Impact Podcast, and I'm here to inspire you as a teenage kid to overcome any struggle you may be going through. Anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts, anything you're going through. I interview people from all around the world who are making an impact in our community, and I interview them on their struggles in life, how they overcame them, and how you can too. Before I continue with this interview, I want you to go in the description, click on the link, and download the 7 quick and easy ways to feel better about yourself. If you're in a funk, if you're feeling down, you don't know what to do. I've compiled these tips based off of my experiences and people's experiences I've interviewed for this podcast. If you know someone else, one of your classmates, one of your best friends, one of your family members who are in a funk, they can't seem to get out of it, the Teenage Impact is the best podcast out there to inspire them to overcome anything they want to so they can make an impact in our community. Today's interview is Nyah Jones. Nyah Jones is an 18-year-old girl who is making an impact in our mental health community. She had her own fair share of struggles, anxiety, depression, self-harm, and soon enough, she ended up in the hospital where she had conversion disorder. She realized later that she can't battle this alone. She got help, and slowly she got better and better as the weeks and months progressed. And she wants you to know that if you are battling anxiety, depression, self-harm, that you shouldn't battle this alone. Today's interview is about on how to overcome anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts, self-harm, and Nyah provides you with powerful techniques and viewpoints on how to overcome those struggles. Give it up for Nyah Jones. Hi, Nyah. Thank you for coming on this podcast. I really do appreciate it.
Thanks for reaching out to me.
This is Nyah's first podcast. I cannot wait.
It'll be good.
It'll be good. Yeah. I know we were talking about how you struggle with a lot of anxiety and depression, and you were admitted in the hospital for conversion disorder, correct?
Right.
And can you just, for those who don't know what conversion disorder, what is conversion disorder and what was the process like?
Yeah, so a lot of people don't understand it. It's basically, to put in like simpler terms, when your mental health starts to affect your physical health. And it can affect you in like a lot of different ways. Sometimes it can take your sight or your hearing. Basically, like my anxiety got so bad and I wasn't doing anything to cope with it. I was just bottling it up and I wasn't talking to anyone about it. And I woke up one morning and felt really weak in my legs. And my mom was really scared and I didn't know why, but apparently there's lots of like dangerous diseases that it could have been. Anyways, we went to the doctor and they couldn't find anything wrong with me. So we just decided to go home and wait it out. But it just kept getting worse to the point where I couldn't walk at all. So within the span of a week, we went to the emergency room 4 different times because I was pretty much paralyzed from the waist down. I didn't have much feeling. I didn't have reflexes. But every time we went to the emergency room, they couldn't find anything wrong with me. So that's another thing with conversion disorder. You have symptoms, but all your tests will come back negative. They won't be like there's nothing physically wrong with you. So after my 4th trip to the ER, they decided to admit me to the hospital. They just chalked it up to conversion disorder because none of the tests were coming back positive. And I just basically went through like hours of therapy every day, like physical therapy and occupational therapy. I was really against talk therapy at first, but I got forced through a few sessions of those. And they released me in about a week, because I did get my strength back in my legs. But conversion disorder is really weird. Like everyone heals at a different time. Sometimes it takes a really long time to heal. You don't really know. There's not a lot that we know about conversion disorder.
Okay, and what triggered those symptoms, or you still don't know?
All we can like we can just think that it was my anxiety and depression, which I didn't know that I had at the time.
Uh-huh.
I have never been one to show my emotions. I've always been the one with a smile on my face, like the happy kid. I mean, I never cried. And I think I just bottled everything up so tight that it just kind of, my brain was kind of like, nope, you have to deal with this.
You had to deal with it. Did someone push you to deal with those situations?
Yeah, after I got out of the hospital, my mom, I was diagnosed with anxiety then because I was like having panic attacks and stuff, which were difficult, but I got through them. And then at the doctor's office, I remember her going over symptoms of depression, and she's like, "Do you think you could have depression?" And I was like, "No way. Like, I'm always happy." And my mom talked to me in the car, and she's like, "You know, it runs in our family. Like, it goes hand in hand with anxiety." And it just took me like forever to admit that I might have depression too. But I did. And eventually it came out. I think I just broke down, and my mom signed me up for therapy without telling me. So it was rough at first. I really did not want to go because talking's not my thing, and I don't talk about my feelings at all. I was forced into a couple sessions of that. My mom had to trick me into going to my first session. I thought we were going to the grocery store. So when we
Mm-hmm.
pulled up at the therapist's office, I was not happy. But it's good that I went there, because they recommended me to a psychiatrist where I got on medications.
You know, there are a lot of people like you who are not open about mental health, and they're too afraid to say, hey, I have anxiety or I have a depression. It's good that you're going at such a young age versus those problems being built up for so long. You know, when I was 18, just like you, I always put that smile on my face, but people didn't really know what was going on inside of me. And then later on in life, 10 years later, I had to unwire those long thoughts that have been going in my head for 15, 20 years. What would you tell teenagers who are also like you that don't really want to open up?
I would say the moment you open up and admit to someone how you're feeling, it gets better. Because if I never broke down to my mom, I would still just be crying by myself in my room. You're not a burden for talking about how you feel and getting help for it. It's okay to put yourself first.
Hmm. Do you think, what would you tell people who say, hey, open up will make me sound weak?
I think you're stronger for opening up about something because you're strong enough to face that battle and fight it and work on yourself and heal yourself. It's the hardest thing ever to wake up every day and get out of bed and like go about your day if you have depression. So if you take the initiative to actually get yourself better, I think that's the bravest thing you can do.
You know what really helps for me is sometimes, I've had those moments where I really don't feel like getting out of bed. I create morning and night rituals. So, morning rituals, I get up just slightly early. And what I do is I do push ups or I go for a walk or I go for a run. And then I start journaling for a few minutes, write down my thoughts, and then just kind of sit down for a few minutes. I mean, that's my rituals. Everyone has their own. I know for people who can't really get out of bed to keep them going, you got to find something.
Right. Sorry, my cat walked into my room. Let me just
It's
close my
okay.
door.
You can bring the cat over.
Okay. She's kind of talkative. I'll try and keep her quiet.
Yeah, not a problem. So her cat's in the background in case you hear cat noises. Now, how did you overcome conversion disorder?
Well, I didn't for a while. I could walk again, but I still had some days where I'd wake up and feel weak or I'd be kind of like twitchy. It was a weird thing, but I noticed that as my mental health got better and as I got help for that, I had less days where I was affected by it. And sometimes it can come back, like if I'm having a bad day, but that's just what it is. It's a weird disorder.
Uh-huh. What was that transition where it went from, hey, I really don't want to wake up, or this is really affecting my life, to now it's significantly reduced?
With conversion disorder or
Yes.
depression? Okay. Well, it started I would walk to school like right after I got back from the hospital. I still couldn't walk normally because I had to completely relearn how to walk. And I just remember like all the stairs I got in school. I had to take the elevator instead of the stairs. So that was like a slow healing process. And then some of the days where I'd like wake up twitching or like my legs would feel weak, they just became less and less as I started to like get coping mechanisms to deal with this and get help from different people, get on medication and open up about it.
You also mentioned to me, before this podcast, you've done self-harm. What were some of those methods?
I used the blade from a pencil sharpener.
Oof.
And I actually started after I was in the hospital because I realized, or no, actually I started before I was in the hospital. But I just like keep it to one spot, very hidden, so that no one could tell. And I would do it like in, the shower where it was easy. And I kept it a secret for a really long time.
And I saw a TikTok video on that where it's been about like 10 months.
Yeah, it's actually I had a typo on that one. It's been a year and 10 months.
A year and 10 months. Okay.
Yes.
What made you overcome it and tell yourself saying, hey, like, this is not good. I need to get help? Or was that conversion disorder? Did that kind of tie into everything?
Yeah, conversion. When I was in the hospital, that was kind of the breaking point
Okay.
because my parents started asking me about my mental health. Before then, I could just kind of blend in and like dismiss it. But one night, my mom asked me if I was self-harming, and I couldn't even get an answer out because I was crying too hard. So she just kind of assumed. She would ask to like, she would check up on me every now and then, and I would just feel really ashamed if I had fresh cuts. I just, it was my parents. They've really supported me, and it was nice to have kind of a rock. And then my mom did all kinds of research on like alternative methods to self-harm, and I started using some of those, and eventually I just felt the need to do it less often since it is an addiction. And once you start, it's impossible to just like stop. So I started doing some of the alternative methods, and then I just kind of weaned off of it.
What caused you to do it?
I think I just felt numb because people think depression is all like sadness and
Yeah.
like running mascara and everything, but in reality, I was just laying on my bedroom floor staring at the ceiling for hours, and I couldn't feel anything. So I think like feeling the blade on my skin and like seeing the blood flow, it was a way I could feel pain, like I could feel something.
Gotcha. There's multiple teens, because I actually I don't know anyone personally, but I do have friends that have kids who've, done self-harm, and it's really tough on the parents. What would you tell that teenager, that 15, 16-year-old that wants to do self-harm to themselves because they feel numb and they don't know any other way?
The best alternative is definitely to talk to someone, which is way harder than it sounds. But if you have one person you can go to instead of picking up the blade, it makes a world of a difference. And there are also alternative methods, like if you really feel the need to rub an ice cube on the spot that you want to, or color with like a pen or on paper if you can. And I write out my feelings. And then once you just get them out there, it's better. It feels better.
Have you used any apps when you write out feelings, or do you do journals?
I use journals. It's nice to just like hold the pencil and
Yeah.
just even like if you can't think of anything to write, I just look up like quotes on Pinterest and write them down because
Hmm.
it gets your thoughts all focused on one thing.
What would you consider the best kind of therapy that you could do by yourself?
By yourself, definitely writing.
Writing.
If you can just like channel your thoughts and your feelings and write them down, it's not there's like I feel like a negative connotation with journaling
Hmm.
and like having a diary, but it's so nice. you don't even have to write about like what's going on if you don't want to. You can just write about made up scenarios and like make a list of things that you love or things that you hate or anything to get your thoughts out. Because once they're out, even onto paper, if you can't talk to somebody, it's at least they're out of your head.
How has journaling positively affected you or helped you?
I can go back on where I was in my darkest times. Like when I thought I couldn't make it any farther, I wrote in my journal. And now when I feel myself spiraling down again, I can look back at those thoughts that I had written down and be thankful that I'm not there anymore. I just write. I write when I'm sad so that I can appreciate when I'm happy.
Oh my God, that is so powerful. I write when I'm sad, so think about it when I'm happy. That's powerful. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
You also mentioned that you were kind of insecure about not having a boyfriend.
Yeah. I had a lot of friends that I thought were prettier than me and were better than me at a lot of things. And so the boys would like ask me for their numbers or like skip me and go straight to them. And I just kind of like felt out of it, like out of the loop, sort of out of the group. And then I fell in love with this guy and he ended up breaking my heart multiple times. And so I was just kind of like, wow, no one's ever going to be able to stick with me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, what I can say to that is I didn't even have a girlfriend in high school. I completely lacked confidence, and no girls would even see me as attractive. But, in college was a completely different story, and people change. Their
Right.
heartbreaks are what actually makes you. You can't see it. You can't see it now, but it's really gonna really shape your next boyfriend or girlfriend.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's actually a good thing. Heartbreaks are a good thing. It sucks at the moment though.
Yeah.
Let's go into this transition where you're making this TikTok account. You have over 455,000 followers. How did you
Yeah.
how was the beginning? Like when did you start it? Was it for fun? Were you trying to be famous? Or tell us your story about that.
Well, I downloaded it like soon after it came out. It was like 4 years ago that I
Really?
downloaded it.
4 years?
Yeah. It's because, oh, if you go back to my old videos, they're very cringy. But all my friends had it and they're like, oh, you should like get this. So I did. And I started doing the trends and just like, it felt good when someone would follow me. So I just posted more and more. And then when it was still Musically, I got featured a couple of times. And I started to like grow this base. And then when it transitioned into TikTok and I got verified and like I realized that I had like 100,000 people following me. I decided that people who are struggling with mental health like I did need to feel like they're not alone.
Uh-huh.
So I really started advocating for mental health after I got better because I use myself as an example a lot in my videos. Like, if I could get through it, then you can get through it too. Like, it's possible to heal. So I just want them to know that, like, you're not the only one who feels this way, but it's not hopeless. Like, there's still hope to be found.
What are your goals with it?
I really want to transfer my following off of TikTok onto other social media apps so that I can just like have more of a presence and more of an impact on lives. And I just like, as long as my messages can reach one person who needs them, I feel accomplished.
That's amazing. You're doing a good job. That's how I found you on TikTok. And then I was like, oh, whoa, she's talking about mental health. And, we need more people like ourselves to kind of spread this message and really see that, hey, people can be open about the problems they're going through.
Right.
Open up is not a strength. It's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength.
Exactly. So many people who have depression, like, they just close off about it. And then anyone who talks about it, people are like, oh, wow, you just want attention, like all that.
Uh-huh.
So I feel like there has to be a couple of people who just like are out there. I'm an open book with it. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it's easier for me since I'm over the worst part of it. Like I'm going up now, on my way up.
Yeah.
Like people can't tell me that I faked it.
Mm-hmm. And your parents were very supportive, especially your mother. How can people face it when they don't have as supportive parents as you?
Honestly, if you go to school, a guidance counselor is someone to talk to, or your best friend, or your best friend's parents, just any adult that you trust. As long as you're getting your feelings out. If you bottle it up, it's just going to get worse.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I even talk to my cat sometimes.
I know. I don't have a pet, but I can see myself talking to a pet
They're a
if I
good
had
listener.
one. I mean, I live by myself, so I talk to myself in the mirror sometimes, and it's kind of creepy, but
It works.
it makes
Just
me
find
feel.
some sort of outlet that works for you, even
Uh,
art.
yeah. What positive outlets do you have besides journaling?
I paint a lot. Well, not a lot. I'm not that good at painting, but I like to.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all that matters. And I I really just like something that actually helped me a lot. I'd scroll through Pinterest and look at the uplifting quotes on there, or
Mm-hmm.
like a poetry book. I have some poetry books of like positive things, and it helps a lot to boost my mood. And sometimes I can call up a friend and just get some ice cream, some comfort food, watch my
Mm-hmm.
favorite cartoons. It works. And even reading a book, because it just puts you into a whole nother world and you just kind of forget about what you're struggling with.
What type of books do you like?
Harry Potter's my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I'm also a sucker for romance novels
Mm-hmm.
because I'm basic, but they're good.
Hey, everyone has their own thing. And do you have any last tips for people that are facing depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts?
I've said it before, but the moment you open up about it, it really does get better.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, when you're depressed, your brain's not working right. It's playing tricks on you and it's telling you that no one would miss you or, like, you'd be better off dead. But suicide does not end the pain, it just makes others hurt more. Like, I've had someone close to me commit suicide, and it's 2 years later, and I'm still, like, hurting over it. It's not a solution. And it really does get better. It doesn't seem like it when you're at your lowest, but it can. There's still light.
And be very understanding of people who are facing it, because I remember when I didn't really know what anxiety and depression was, and people used to open up to me because I used to listen to it, and I never fully grasped it until later on when I actually faced it myself.
Right. If people open up to you, if someone trusts you enough to open up to you about their problems, don't dismiss them. Don't
Mm-hmm.
tell them, like, oh, it's okay, other people have it worse. Or, like, even if you don't know what to say, just be there to listen to them.
Mm-hmm.
Because checking on people makes so much more of a difference than you can even, like, imagine. Because you never know, like, everyone's fighting their own invisible battles. So if you're just a jerk to everyone, it could make it hard. You could be pushing someone closer to the edge and not even
Mm-hmm.
know it.
Absolutely. Naya, where can people find you?
Well, on TikTok, my username is Nyah Jones with an underscore after it. That's spelled Nyah Jones with an underscore. That's also my Instagram. And my Twitter is Nyah Jones with two S's instead, like an S instead of the underscore.
Mm-hmm. I also will include it in the description of the podcast. So if you don't know how to spell it, it's going to be in the description. And for my subscribers or people who are tuning in for the first time, you can follow my Instagram handle at Shelomo Solson. Go ahead, follow me, DM me to be in my close friends group. I actually have starting to have a lot of teenagers who are DMing me about being in a close friends group. I have exclusive content that I have learned over the years, or maybe out of the 22 interviews that I have done of people who are struggling with mental health or overcame some kind of struggle, I compile those tips and just give exclusive content for people who are my close friends group. So definitely DM me. Okay, Nyah, I really do appreciate this, and I really wish you the best of luck.
Thanks for letting me share my story. That was fun. I like podcasts.
I loved interviewing Nia Jones. Why? Because it was such a genuine interview. I feel like the conversation just flowed well. It was one of the shorter interviews, but even though it was a short interview, I feel like it had, powerful content that any teenager like yourself can use. If you're feeling down, if you feel like you have depression, if you're waking up feeling numb, that Nia wants you to know that self-harm shouldn't be an option. She used self-harm by cutting herself because she couldn't feel anything. And by um, you know, cutting herself was a way to feel something, was a way to feel pain. And at least pain was better than no feeling. But she wants you to know that self-harm is not an option, that if you're battling something, go ahead, be open about your mental health struggles. Your parents, maybe your siblings, your best friends, your guidance counselor, whoever it may be, whoever is supportive enough to listen to you and try to help you overcome these struggles. Remember, um, being open is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of strength. And the more open you are about it, the the higher chances you have to overcome these struggles. And if you're ever feeling like you want to harm yourself, find a positive outlet. Naya uses art as a positive outlet. Go find, I mentioned in the interview, go have morning and night rituals that kind of helps you start your day in the right path. Thank you for listening to this interview. And if you haven't done so, go ahead, follow me at Shelomo Solson, DM me to join my close friends group. And hope you listen to the next interview where I will share the best tips for any teenager like yourself to overcome mental health struggles. Peace.